You can do it. Anything that emerged when you go to the group. Anything that surprised you. Just 2 cooks.
Knowing that others participate.
Knowing that others are going to participate will help you participate. Thank you. Same. 2 more. Yeah.
The small world, and sometimes our connections and protection will help us.
Yes, it's a small world, and sometimes your connection will help another connection, help you get more connections. And so, get to know each other. Thank you. Last one. Yeah.
Safe space where you can unmask it here.
Yes, this is a safe space where we can unmask a little and be ourselves. Thank you. Anything? Oh, I'm so sorry. Anything else for the good of the group? Do folks feel like we've arrived?
Yeah.
Hit a little head nod. We made it. We are here. We are together. We're going to kick off the rest of our evening with an intro to Cecilia.
Yes, I'm stoked and weirdly excited and honored to introduce Cecilia. Speaking of connections, I met Cecilia when I was a baby organizer, not that long ago, 3 years ago. But I met her in the network that I now work in, that she came from before taking on this role. So I'm very excited to give her some of her flowers while we get. I'll make her feel weird a little bit, so make sure you're super loud when she walks in. Cecilia Flores is the Executive Director of Captain Volunteer Network. Yeah! Yeah, she is. She leads with a focus on racial justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her experience spans years of service with Missioners in Christ in Honduras from 2008 to 2014. Cecilia holds a BA in philosophy from San Francisco State University and an MA in global development and social justice from St. John's University. She is passionate about community organizing, storytelling, and raising her children, Kiara and Jacob. Her guiding quote is from St. Oscar Rivera. The poor are the ones who tell us what the world is and what service the church must offer to the world. Everybody join me in welcoming Cecilia to the stage.
Or I thought that was the mic here. Is that? Here we go. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Yeah. I always tell people, when I have to speak and they read my bio, it's always just, so awkward. Because, quite honestly, if you think I look really good and sound really good on paper, but it doesn't, say who I am. So anyone who's in the world of community and organizing is probably familiar with that I am from home. I like to start off with groups where I haven't met everyone with my I am from home because I think it really speaks to who I am, my identity. And that's what this session is about, is grounding us in ourselves. And so some of you have heard this. Some of you have heard this many times. But I also want to read it to remind myself who I am and where I'm from. I'm from wooded tables covered with banana leaves, with a whole roasted pig still steaming hot on the bamboo spit. I'm from ripe nacos cut like turtle shells, for rice harvested from the paddy that I can see from my bedroom window, and from luvia that we rolled together around a table with 4 generations of my family. I'm from a farm in Mindanao, a white brick house in Cebu, and a 1,000-foot square foot house that was home to countless family members over time in West Pittsburgh, California. I'm from a yard full of fruit trees planted by my grandfather, where roosters crow at all hours of the day, and where the sound of the song from the ice cream truck or the bells of the Baratero's car brightened every kid's day. I'm from stay in the shade or you'll get too dark. When we get to the airport, no more English. Do you know how far that grain of rice traveled to be on your plate? And you've gained weight, followed by, did you eat already? Immigrant parents. Oh. I'm from Bonfire Market, where the most exciting events took place, from fights to meeting up with the boyfriend that your parents didn't know you had. I'm from Bel Air, Riverview, and Mount Diablo, the school to prison pipeline that sucked in too many of my peers, but that was also filled with teachers and mentors who cared more about me than I did about myself at that time. I'm from the Vilio and Marie from Raimundo and Waseja, from the Flores family inhabiting the land of the Maguindanao people of Mindanao, from the Veloso family of the island of Cebu, and from countless cousins, uncles, aunts, ancestors, and family members, some of whom I can't even explain how I'm related to. And I'm from CBN. I share this because the topic is, the first revolution is internal. And I think when I hear that, sometimes I think about the way that I was formed to know God. And it was a way that was very much, I needed to change everything about who I was, to belong, to get into heaven, to be accepted, to pass the test, right? And for me, looking at what internal revolution means is, who am I? And who am I supposed to be? What was I put here to do? What are the gifts that God gave me? And how am I going to use them for the benefit, not only of my own life, but for the betterment of the future of the world, for the people who live in it now, and for my children who will inherit it? And it grounds me more because I think when I heard and always turned to self-examine, it took me a very long time to love who I am and to accept who I am. And not only that, but as a child of immigrants, to accept where my family is from, navigating the differences in culture, in belief system, in tradition, and living in what many children of immigrants call kind of the in-between. So there's a quote I want to share, because as we look toward internal revolution, what I really want to think about is who we are as people. So Betty, can you flip to the next slide? I love this quote because I just think it's like, it embraces like my spirit, but I feel like there's probably y'all's spirit too in the room. So it says, community development, well, okay, so I'll start there. Every community is a place filled with gifts to be given and care to be discovered. The song of community is, we need you. We need you. Join us. There is no one we don't need. We need you. We need you. Join us. There is no one we don't need. Now, truthfully, sometimes I get down and I'm like, well, you know, I'm not God, but I'd probably get rid of it at the people I could. But I'm not God, so I don't know. But I think I spent so much of my life trying to be what other people wanted to be, or wanted me to be, or show up how I wanted. I didn't show up the way I would have showed up. I showed up how I thought people wanted me to show up. And when I read this, I think about that, like, we need you. We need you, like, as you are, with all of your gifts, all of your talents, all of your joys, your traumas, your triumphs, whatever it is that you bring with you. We need you, and we need that. We don't need what you think. We want you to show up as. And I say that. I know I've been in spaces where I am there because someone wants you to show up in a particular way. And I know how hard it is to show up authentically as oneself in any space, no matter what kind of background you have or what you've lived through. So I'm going to share a little story. Other people also know I'd love to tell stories. So the slide has nothing on it, but it does say story time because it's cute. And I want to share this because I think this is kind of the spirit with which I hope we can move forward in the next few days. But I consult for the USCCB's Committee on Cultural Diversity, like AKA the date structure of the church. The part of the church a lot of people don't like to interact with because it's very institutional and it's very rigid. It's very difficult. I lead a team of national young adults that are from all over the country and that are representative of different diverse groups from out the church. I mean, we're very gay, you have Hawaiian, Black Catholics, pretty much if you name it, we totally have. We know our network that represents that community. And we were in a meeting, and I just remember my team, we didn't like what was being shared in the meeting. We didn't like the direction it was going. We felt like we were in there and we were trying to explain what we wanted, right? Like they brought us there to represent and to be a voice, but we were like, but you're only listening to us, so what are we doing here? But, you know, in the meeting, we behaved ourselves and we did what we were supposed to do. And after the meeting, we went to the meeting after the meeting. Have any of y'all been to the meeting after the meeting? I hope we don't need that here. That's part of it. But the meeting after the meeting where everybody says what they actually wanted to say in the meeting. And I just remember saying, why did nobody say this in there? Because if anybody knows me, I am the one person in that room who's going to say it because I have been loved to the point of safety that I feel like I can do that because I want to know it's just not easy. But I remember my friend said, you know, I said, why didn't anybody say this we're in there? My friend Teresa says that. She says, Cecilia, you know how it is. Like, you just got to be grateful we're there, and we got to do the dance. Just do the dance, right? And I think anyone who's ever been tokenized or been invited in his face to be a voice, and then with that door just like shut in your face, like, actually, we just want to be here so we can like check the box that we have someone, but we don't actually want your opinions, right? I think people who know how that feels, it's like the worst feeling ever. But I knew exactly what she was saying. Like, oh yeah, just do the dance, just deal with it. And I just had this moment, and it could be nothing other than the Holy Spirit that just told me, like, what if you just stopped? What if you stopped doing the dance? What if you just started saying what you actually wanted to say? What if you stopped apologizing? What if you stopped assimilating? What if you stopped conforming? Because I just became so convicted of the fact that if God means me, He made me because there's something here I'm supposed to do. There's somewhere I need to show up and to be other people. Then I have a duty and a responsibility to show up as myself, not as anybody else. And it sounds so simple, right? Like, but as someone who's just struggled for so long, wanting to do the right thing, wanting to please my parents, and, you know, honor their legacy and their sacrifice of feeling conflicted, of feeling like I let people down, to feel like, oh my gosh, like, what if I just stopped doing the dance? And so, and you have to sit with me in this time on my team, I should probably just stop. And I just started showing up as myself. And never have I been, one, more comfortable being myself than I have now. And two, I saw how much that ability to live honestly and authentically helped other people around me, and it helped other conversations take place that needed to happen. And not only that, I think sometimes, Snack, they'll do this, you know, I kind of put up a wall whenever it's kind of like, oh gosh, what are we doing here? Let me be careful about how we interact with this group or this setting. And I realized they invited us into that space, and there's a level of safety that I need to show up. But there's also they can only work with what I give them, too. So they thought they were going in the right direction because I didn't say anything in the meeting. I said everything in the meeting after the meeting. So kind of this give and take, and how do we show up? How do we step forward and step back? And I think that's a concept I continue to be remitted now. And I don't know, did I put that on slide? I made slides like 5 minutes before I got up here, so yeah, step back. I think that's a concept I want to see lived in here a lot. If you know, like, just say it. Just say it. If you think, you you haven't said anything, you have something you want to say, you're like, oh, I'm not going to say it. I'm the worst at like small groups, I get it. But, if you notice you're contributing a lot and other people aren't seeing you, sometimes it just takes stepping back for someone to say, okay, now there's room for me. And so the little practices that we can do to really make the space what we need it to be, because everybody's here because they're supposed to be here. And now we just have to let each other show up. And I just love the concept of that, and being able to let you all know. And I think the community of agreements are so powerful because they really see to like what it means to be to each other. And that's what I love. And so something that I think is important is to continue to reflect on who we are as individuals and how we can show up and make others feel safe enough to show up is that, one, if we talk about the first revolution being internal, what that revolution is for me is not, if you say, said it's for you, like we all have different things we're working on. But I like to say that one, there's not only one, right? You're going to undergo many revolutions. And it's internal, but it isn't meant to be private, right? Like, now what do I do with that? How do I show up with that? We all play a part in what this story is. And when we show up, we're able to see it more fully. Like, even just the time I've been here, I've seen how people are connecting, how people are, synergy, the way the screen is moving. It's a beautiful thing. So wait, next. And even just the time I've been here, there's two things I think that are going to kind of guide us. There's two rules or challenges I want to give y'all in the time that we're here together. And I think you all need to work with this, including myself. But Ben, could you on the next slide?
Oh, wait, I said that. Sorry. The double next slide. That one.
Okay, here we go. Now, I think because we're helpers and we love to be around other people and to serve, sometimes you can be a little bit of, people pleasing or just first one, right? I'm just it's sort of my job here, right? I'm just a volunteer. I'm just a parishioner here. No just. You are not just anything. You are you, and we need you. And we need you to show up as yourself. So do not, that language is so important. Don't minimize yourself, because I want everybody to show up as their full selves. And you are not just it. Not in God's eyes, but also on the eyes of this community. So try to eliminate that. I'm it's hard for me even, I've realized. So that's one. Want to eliminate saying just. In that context, it just is a good concept, not in that. And the last one, sorry. Oh my gosh. We're always apologizing to each other for things that you don't have to be sorry about. You know what I mean? Oh, so something, it's sorry is meant for an apology. Sorry is meant to be, a form of reconciliation and reparation in a relationship. And I've noticed that I apologize for who I was, what I thought, what I said, so many times unnecessary. So this is just a little challenge that I want to bring into the space, as I think it will be helpful just to kind of remember, look at the people in this room and what each of us does in our community is. You got, unapologetic. That's what unapologetic means. Stop saying sorry. Stop apologizing for being who you are and believing what you believe. And let's just show up for each other. I really am convicted that, the way things have moved and fallen into place to be able to gather this diverse from all different places and backgrounds is already huge. And we're going to continue to be a space where we can gather, can be, and be a movement forward for what we all collectively share when it comes to morals and values. So I'm around. This is my last spiel. If I see we're talking and you say one of those words, I will tell you not to say it. But I'm just so grateful for you all for being here, for taking the time. And I really look forward to, what we're going to co-create in this space in the next few days. So thank you.
Hey, Cecilia. And as someone who has definitely benefited from your wisdom and leadership, she's a thanker. Cecilia, for your wisdom and leadership from the meeting after the meeting, thank you so much. For all the ways that has rigged me to participate as well. One of the things you said, Cecilia, is that I'm loved to the point of safety. And one of the things I know to be true is if we're volunteer myself is being loved to the point of bravery, courage, curiosity, being loved to the point of formation and becoming. And so I know that's true for so many of us in this room. And in this next few moments, what we're going to do is actually invite some of those among us to share their bravery and their courage. We will love them into this stage and into this space. This is going to be our Ignite sessions. So the way that this will flow is that Alyssa and I will have the honor of reading a short bio of someone in the room. They know it's Henning, so you're not going to it's not a rain up, all right? You're not on Assad.
we're going to have the honor of reading someone's bio and introduce them to you. Then they'll come forward to this mic and share an Ignite session with the room.
So let's see it. Rudy Dehaney is a Baltimore native, born to Jamaican parents and a graduate of Ormond State University, Baltimore. He began working in ministry at his home parish of Blessed Sacrament as part-time youth and young adult minister before serving as the youth and young adult coordinator for the Northeast Catholic Community Parish of Baltimore. He currently serves as a coordinator of youth ministry at Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. In addition to parish work, Rudy serves as a leader of the Carthagena Associates of the USA, which seeks to promote Cardinal Joseph Carthagena's vision for lay apostolate in the modern world through the See, Judge, Act method. Racial justice is an passion of his, and he's worked with various groups and organizations to help advocate for marginalized communities. Welcome, Rudy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Here. All right, like the energy. Love to see so many familiar faces and some new ones, so I'm glad to be the first one up here. Make that energy come through. All right. We are off to a great start to this CAP Volunteer Network conference here. And as we continue to journey to shape the hearts of others and change unjust structures to help those in need, all to fulfill that great commandment of loving your neighbor. Based on that, I would now like to declare to state, if I want to know about what a neighbor means to you, then I will ask about your friends. Seeing Cecilia up there, having this invitation, and also thinking about this speak, it reminded me how important friends are for the internal aspects of the human being. That is how we think, how we discern, how we empathize, and how we allow the Holy Spirit to move to us in the direction that we need to go. The same goes, judge a person by the company they keep. And while we are all individuals and we have our own thoughts and individual qualities, the people we engage with on a regular basis, sharing thoughts, experiences, and knowledge with, have a tremendous impact on our views and decision-making. So now, if we connect this to founding social teaching of Solidarity, where the principal notion is see your fellow human as your neighbor and with dignity, how can we truly know what the meaning of solidarity is? It's not reflected in our own lives on a deeper personal level. Why is it that our workplace can be diverse, but our personal lives cannot? This thought process can include our worship spaces, our neighborhoods, our vacation spots, our most intimate locations. Yes, we are called to be charitable with our time, talent, and treasure. We are called to pray for our brothers and sisters in times of need. Yes, we are called to spread the word as it has been given to us. But what is this teaching Rudy is asking us to do about solidarity is to go a little deeper. To know that one can only be in a true, authentic place when thinking about that solidarity, when we are in relationship with one another, especially in our most vulnerable life-giving stages, sharing in life together. I'll share each other from my own life by going back to the happiness of Cecilia being here and being a great friend of mine, right? And how thankful I am for my other friends, just as Cecilia talked about being in that space. I've come to have many friends from diverse backgrounds from that same experience. And now, over the past years, we have come to bond with each other. We have spent time in conversations, sharing experiences, discussing topics, asking questions, learning about different issues, how different communities view different issues, and how each of them view it themselves, all on a regular basis. Without such connection points in our whole lives, we can be opened up to missing blind spots, which we all have. This is somewhat obvious from those of you with ambitions, immersions, or the like. There's sure many of you have. Your connection to people grows more as you engage over time through working those communities and countries as you build relationships with people. But let's not stop there once you leave. So here's the challenge. Look at your friend circles in eyes. Does this reflect my overall vision of what solidarity looks like? If yes, great. 2 thumbs up. Congratulations. Right? You are living the life. You are living the life that we need to live as an open community. Go help others in your lives who might think your understanding experience to take those little changes. If it does not reflect it, then start asking the tough questions. Well, why? And where it might benefit from building new relationships across diverse communities. Let's all take a step in the growth and habits of recognition to look what's inside. The place, hopefully, where you can feel that new growth of self and in love for others, that you have the ability to call any person from any walk of life that special word. Friend. Thank you, everybody.
Katie Sullivan is a native of Washington, D.C. She describes service as something that is integral to who her family is, that it is not something they do, but who they are. Following graduation from the College of Holy Cross, she became a Franciscan volunteer minister. She lived, served, and prayed as a Franciscan volunteer minister for 2 years with the community of St. Francis in Philadelphia. She then worked for a year with the sophomores of Villanova University before joining the staff of FDM. She is grateful for her Franciscan family and for the blessings of walking with others through the FDM program.
Love. Love is the last word that my father spoke in his life. He spoke it to my mom in the hospital just before he died. It is a value that is integral in our family, and the service that Pastor spoke of has been very much part of who we are, not because it was something we felt was a duty, not because it was something society said, oh, hey, here's a need, let's go do something, but because of love. Because our family very much recognizes that God has given life to all of us, and in such where we am I. And so it isn't service to or for people, but really service with and in covenant with our brothers and sisters. The main person I'll share with you briefly today, though, beyond my father, is also my mom. My mom was a prime example of that love in action. She's particularly important for us because after college, she served as a volunteer. And particularly in Colorado, which I'm going to get to go see Durango, where she spent a year working in a hospital as one of 2 nurses on staff in the entire building at nights. And that is who my mom was. Someone who lived her life of faith and her life of love. She did that as in her profession. She did that as a volunteer. She did that as a friend, was a family member. But our praying today that particularly alarming. I had to write it down. That's why the boat's here. You might guess it. That's fine. Do not let terror keep us from love. We are metaphor. My glasses are on my knees. That's fine. Do not let terror keep us from the love they are one for. My mom lived and died beautifully. She showed me in both her strengths and her weaknesses
how to receive love. So not only as an example of how to give it, but of how to receive it. Another line of the prayer is about being laid bare. And for those of you who are parents, I am not, but for those of you who are parents, like your children are laid bare before you. And for those of us who have been caregivers for people who are sick, our loved ones are laid bare before us too. And the way my mom allowed me to do that with her, not for, not to, but with her, was an incredible example of love, of dignity, and of God's grace. And so for me, I offer to use that one word again, love. Woo!
Thank you, Katie, for sharing with us, for being with us for so many years. You're the veteran. You win the award. So thank you for sharing parts of your heart, your underskirt with us today. We appreciate it. Next up, we have Graciella Saucedo-Rivera. Where are you at? Come up while I read your bio. Graciella is a natural challenger who lives for empowering people-powered communities. Through her work, she aims to build the capacity of individuals on the grassroots level. Honoring her lived experience growing up in a multicultural and a colorful immigrant community in St. Paul, Minnesota, she holds space to celebrate diverse cultures, faiths, and languages. She recently graduated from DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois with a BS in Business Marketing and a beloved minor in theology. As an organizer, Gracie loves to bring people together to exchange ideas, build momentum, and create change. Gracie's at her best when she has her hands in the garden dirt, is feeding her family, cruising on her bike, or is alongside her elders in conversation. Welcome, Gracie.
I wrote that, but it gets me every time. I'm like, couldn't fall back. Hi, I'm Gracie, and I wanted to tell you guys about how my year of service really changed my perspective about what solidarity is and what it means, of how I came out with the sense of solidarity that I never expected to have. I hope that solidarity would come easily to me based on an assumption about my identity. I'm from the inner city, I'm multicultural, bilingual, and I grew up with a lot of me. I grew up receiving a lot of the services and resources that a lot of you all have spent a long time dedicating your lives to. So my assumption in doing a year of service was that I would click with everybody. I'd get it. I understand what it's like to be in a lot of people's shoes. I was totally wrong. I was wrong, and it was unexpected. My volunteer year and my time being in community with those that I served, it allowed me to make connections and see different perspectives that I didn't think that I didn't realize before. But that all kind of came naturally to me. I already connects well with others, and so being in community and being in relationship with others, that was the easy part. Actually, the more difficult part was being in relationship with the people that I worked with. The other people who were in positions of power and positions of privilege and authority. Understanding their struggles and where they were coming from, that was one of my big areas of challenge. That was something that I had to overcome. Yes, that was true. Another area of solidarity that I grew into was understanding what solidarity with the earth meant. I grew up in the inner city surrounded by concrete, but I'm also from the Twin Cities where there's a lot of lakes and parks and green spaces. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the opportunity to engage with those spaces in a meaningful way, so understand what it meant to see God, not only in the people that I was serving, but also in the earth that I'm touching, led me to my vocation where I now work in conservation. So there were a lot of lessons to be learned for me, but what I really wanted to talk about was my struggle in understanding the people that I worked and lived with. It was easy for me to, what did you say earlier, to turn to wonder. Somebody said that earlier. It was easy for me to turn a place of wonder to not have my questions answered about why somebody had such perspective about the people that we were serving, why they said or did this one thing.
And it was through reflection and through group reflection particularly that I was able to have a little bit of insight into what they were thinking. So one of my greatest privileges in my year of volunteer service was being with the program that allowed us to take one day each to just reflect on the things that we did. We got together as a group, we shared our thoughts and our perspectives with one another and also reflected on them independently. And it was in those moments when I got to see what other people were writing about, what they were struggling with and what they were sitting with, that I realized that I had made assumptions about those people. I realized that my area of wonder allowed me to not get those answers, and I could just sit with my perspective of them. So see what they were struggling with and what they were growing through allowed me to realize that I am room to grow in understanding people who have different perspectives than me. And that wasn't the people that I was serving. That was the people that I lived with and that I worked with sometimes. So ultimately, it was through that open dialogue and through that reflection, through holding space to hear people's perspectives that at first I didn't really care about. And eventually I learned to really listen to because they offered me a perspective that I couldn't have on my own. Additionally, through having people who were there to witness my growth, to witness my journey, and to witness my conflict with others, particularly staff members who had a similar social identity than I did, a similar cultural identity, who I felt like understood where I was coming from, where the areas of conflict and contention arose. So through open dialogue, through having a diverse staff, and through having a not so diverse volunteer program, I learned to embrace my own identity in a certain space, but I also learned to value other people's identities, even though the majority of people in the room. And that was something that was a great area of growth for me. I don't have anything sort of peaceful to leave you with other than sometimes growth comes in unexpected places. I thought that a year of service would be really easy. It wasn't, and I'm all the better for it. Thank you.
Up next, we have Keenan. Megan graduated from the University of Notre Dame in May of 2024. She is now participating in a year of service to the Colorado Vincentian Volunteers. She chose CVB because the values they promote: direct service and advocacy, spirituality, community, and reflection and possession. In August, she went to Denver, Colorado, was placed at the Lutheran Family Service Rocky Mount for her full-time service site. She works in the resettlement and legal departments and has gaining experience with refugees and asylees in a variety of contexts such as employment, public transportation, cultural orientation, and applications for legal, current resident status, and employment authorization documents. Well,
thank you for a lovely introduction. You kind of wasn't say it. Hey, bye.
So I chose to participate in a year of service because I wanted to grow. And honestly, we could do a year of service if don't grow, and then you did it wrong. You have to be pretty disconnected from your work and from your community to not change throughout the year. And this is not to say to grow up in seat. It's uncomfortable, tiring, and time-consuming. In order to grow, you have to challenge yourself. For me, this looks like attending events outside work, being vulnerable with my repeats after a hard day at work, and say yes. Be the lead for a project at work? Yes. Organize a spirituality night for my house? Yes. Speak on a panel to a bunch of strangers? Yes. Pushing myself outside of my comfort zone with doing things like this that kind of scare me is necessary for personal growth. As Ritzy mentioned, CBV doesn't just encourage reflection on our growth, they made it mandatory. Every Friday, you need to have intentional conversations and explore topics related to Catholic social teaching and justice. This gives us space to process what we see at work, connect it to our faith, and share our wins and our challenges with one another.
CBV has created an environment where we can truly grow together as companions on a journey. A particular area of growth for me has been my understanding of solidarity. If you asked me before this year what I thought solidarity was, I would have told you that it was reading the news, listening to podcasts, staying informed, and reposting infographics on my Instagram story. I studied Catholic social tradition in non-Baptist college, and I believe that I'm cutting to practice what I work in. My perspective on solidarity has changed dramatically over the course of this year's service. It is much more than talking and reading about issues. I would now say that solidarity is a combination of justice and service, and I don't think you can both do either without the other. Pope Francis said, solidarity is not merely a question of helping others. It is good to do so, but it is more than that. It is a matter of justice. The work of solidarity requires that we go to the margins of society, and that is exactly where CEP has placed us. We're all serving different populations that society writ large would rather ignore and continues to dehumanize. Lutheran Family Services has been hit hard by the elimination of federal funding through resettlement agencies and the freeze on new arrivals. This freeze means that people who are fleeing war zones, political violence, ethnic cleansings, and countless other atrocities are no longer to seek refuge, no longer allowed to seek refuge in our country. LMS has experienced substantial layoffs. This means that the remaining staff have increased their caseloads, which decreases the amount of support and resources available for our clients. The actions being taken against resettlement agencies and those that they serve are harming one of the most vulnerable populations. Catholic social teaching emphasizes the preferential option for poor and vulnerable, and I hear that many have lost sight of this. As Catholics, we are called to see Jesus in all people. I can't think of a better example of this than to see the Holy Family, who fled persecution and violence, reflected in the refugee families that are seeing similar circumstances today. It is truly radical to practice the commandment to love thy neighbor. I will be attending law school at the University of Kansas in August, and I'm paid on immigration law. Before this year, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Law school has been in the back of my mind for years because it felt like the natural next step after majoring in political science. But I didn't feel ready, and I wasn't sure it was really what I wanted to do. Before going to law school, I wanted to at least have some real-world experience. And oh boy, did I get some. This year has further solidified my desire to do something that will help people, and has illuminated a path makes doing just that. I would like to close with an abridged version of Hope, a poem by Worcestershire, a British Somali poet. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run to the border when you see the whole city running as wild. No one would leave home unless home chased you, fire at your feet, hot blood in your belly. You have to understand, no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. Who would choose to spend days and nights in the stomach of a truck unless the miles traveled meant something more than a journey? And if you survive, you're greeted on the other side with the go home lax, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers, sucking our country dry of milk, dark with their hand now, smells strange, savage. What have they done to their own countries? What will they do to ours? I want to know home, but home is the mouth on the shark. Home is the barrel of the gun. And no one will leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home tells you to leave what you could not behind, even if it was human. No one leaves home until home is a damn voice in your ear saying, leave, run now. I don't know where to come. Thank you.
And last, but definitely not least, we have Ogechi Akalegbere. Come on up. Ogechi is a Nigerian American who currently works as a director of youth and young adult ministry at St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church in the Archdiocese of Washington. She previously served as a Christian Juries Coordinator in All Girls Independent Catholic School, where she served as a diversity co-practitioner and ministry leader. She also uses her gifts as a public speaker, fitness instructor, and community organizer. Ogechi grew up in and lives in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Can I say that right? Okay. When she's not at work or creating digital content, she's either enjoying quality time with her husband of 5 years or at the gym lifting weights. She has a passion for social justice, empowering individuals to find their inner and outer strength, and solidarity with those of the margins. She served as a catechist, lector, pastoral council co-chair, and small group leader in her parish at diocese, and is involved as a community organizer and diversity practitioner in her community. Ogechi uses her training as an equity facilitator and practitioner to help parishes, organizations, and small groups digest what equity means to them and to those they encounter. She combines her passion for community organizing, her Catholic faith as a board member of Catholics United for Black Lives. Ogechi is and was the 2021 winner of the Cardinal Bernardine New Leadership Award from the Catholic Cabinet for Youth Development. Please join me in welcoming.
No carshering last. So this is titled Living Solidarity. As we've been talking about, I too have sat at too many tables where the voices of those most impacting were silenced, either by politeness, privilege, or even good old Catholic good intentions. It's been said, your seat at the table is only as good as those you get to share the table with. And whatever you think you might bring to the table pales in comparison. We say you want justice. We say we believe in solidarity. But the truth is, solidarity doesn't begin with external action. It begins with self-transformation. Justice, biblically defined, means right relationship. But are we in right relationship with ourselves and God first? That first revolution, the one that matters the most, is internal. I've worked with young people longing to make a difference in the world, arrogant women dismissed by systems that never expected them to stand up in need. And I've seen this truth time and time again. If everyone is at the table with voice and agency,
it's not transformation, but merely theater.
Catholic social teaching is not about charity, it's about kinship. It tells us that solidarity isn't just a sentiment. It's what John Paul II called a firm and persevering determination to commit to the common good. But that determination, it has to be cultivated. It doesn't come from one service trip. It comes from dying to ego, dying to control, dying to comfort. Yes, in the service trip, as I see with my students, seeds of love and charity can be planted, but that solidarity requires watering those seeds with humility, openness, owning our own stories, and embracing the tension that comes from truly caring about those around us. Furthermore, real solidarity requires that I confront and wrestle with the ways I have been shaped and benefit from the very systems I claim to resist. I grew up with the lie that peacemaking means avoiding conflict. Now I know peacemaking means stepping into the tension and discomfort of truth. It means learning how to be led. It means I don't always get the way. As organizer, I've had many unforgettable moments. One woman I had met as a timid and shy immigrant parent has since blossomed to a fierce leader of a group of immigrant women who can not only lead an action, but demand respect, and they actually could steer the hearts of company managers and county council members. That power was not me, not the staff. It was Adama and women like her who were given the space and agency to step into their selves. As a youth minister this year, my high school religious education class focused on leadership development. And as a true organizer, I sprinkled in relational organizing in the lessons. One lesson that they particularly struggled with was talking about their own gifts. Not their output, what grades, sports they're good at, but the inherited gifts and skills and talents entrusted to them by God. After this set of relational meetings with family members and trusted friends, I learned during our last class that they agreed that this class had allowed them the space to be seen in ways their parents and friends could not. Will they all be the next great theologians? No. But they learned a better theology. Solidarity in action requires first that internal work. They needed to, as Sister Thea Bowman famously said, bring their whole selves, not just into their works and grades, but into their participation as leaders in the current church. That is solidarity. Not me leading on their behalf, but me becoming someone who believes they already have everything they need to lead, and in the case of the youth, allowing space for the Holy Spirit to do her thing. It's about shared power. It's about deep relationships, becoming co-conspirators. It's about trust. It's about affirming that you desire to see others as God sees them, especially those often unseen and ignored. That's hard work. It's slower, it's messier. It doesn't make you look great on social media, but it's holy work. It's what Jesus did. Philippians tells us Christ emptied himself. He didn't cling to status. He got proximate. He washed he shared tables and told stories and flipped other tables over. So what does that mean for us? It means the real movement isn't just from service projects to solidarity. It's from self to kinship, from control to communion. It's from I'll help you to we belong to each other. This conference says a moment for movement, and I believe that. If we want to build a world that reflects God's justice, that right relationship, we can't skip the internal revolution. We do have to get right within. So I'm asking you, before you rush to act, to fix, to lead, have you let God rearrange you? Have you listened deeply enough to be changed? Have you created a space for others to lead you? Because we don't need more programs. We need more people willing to become who this moment requires. This is our moment, no matter what those others might say. But we don't need to look outward first. Look inward and ask yourself, who are you becoming for the sake of the world we long for? Let that first revolution be the one that changes you. Then, and only then, can we rise together in radical, relentless, sacred solidarity. Thank you for listening.